Hi everyone, my name's Sarah and with me I'm joined by Amanda and Maria. Today we're going to talk you through crime scripting of a romance scam and suspicious transactions in Mr. Smith's business account. It is a valuable analytical tool that breaks down criminal activities into distinct steps or stages. This approach offers several practical benefits, particularly in intelligence, prevention, and also policy planning. Crime scripting forces you to think beyond just the offender. This view helps in understanding not just the what, but the how and why behind a crime. Scams often involve a scripted approach where criminals build a false sense of intimacy and trust in order to manipulate their victims into sending money. Scammers will ask for sums of money, often for a fabricated emergency, for example to pay for medical bills or travel expenses, and they'll avoid meeting their victims in person. The preparation stage of crime scripting involves all of the actions required to set up the crime before engaging with the victims. In the case of Ben and Rosalie, a crime gang operating outside of Nigeria recruited a group of scammers and trained the group on how to carry out romance scams for the purpose of potential financial gain. The scammers established their operation in Malaysia and were provided with the required knowledge and training on how to create online personas that appear desirable to vulnerable victims. The tools used to prepare for the scam were fabricated online social media profiles and dating profiles. The scammers developed scripts which they planned to use to emotionally manipulate their victims. Ben established a desirable online persona using stolen identity images, presenting himself as a wealthy and attractive businessman working out of Malaysia. This persona was carefully designed to appeal to emotionally vulnerable individuals. Using various psychological manipulation techniques to gain the trust of the victim, Ben groomed Rosalie emotionally, investing significant time in building a false sense of safety and intimacy. He even made romantic gestures like sending flowers to her home and told her everything she wanted to hear in order to lure her in. Once that trust was established, Ben constructed a backstory for the need for immediate financial assistance due to a business emergency he was facing, seeking a temporary loan from Rosalie to help him through the crisis.
This is Amanda talking about crime scripting activity and post-activity. The activity phase is where the scam is executed, and Ben, or Bidemy, had a clear strategy to get there. First, he gained Rosalie's trust. Then he introduced a believable financial emergency. Finally, he extracted the money, all while staying emotionally in control of Rosalie. This is the core of the romance scam, the crime itself, ultimately getting the money. Ben transitioned from emotional grooming to calculated financial exploitation. Nothing he did was random. His timing was deliberate, designed to keep Rosalie emotionally hooked while draining her financially. Once trust was secured, Ben claimed he was stuck in Malaysia with a failing business. He said he urgently needed money and promised to repay her. He used believable stories and urgency to pressure Rosalie into sending funds. The first transfer went through Western Union to Bidemy Bakari, not Ben. The requests didn't stop. Each came with a new excuse, and Rosalie, believing she was helping the man she loved, kept sending the money. In total, $90,000. This phase also aligns with stage 1 of the money laundering cycle, placement. Ben used Rosalie as a money mule, moving fraudulently obtained funds through international transfers and making the money harder to trace and disguising the crime. Post-activity phase of this crime script began when Ben, Bidemy, realised Rosalie had no more money to give. He slowly withdrew, delaying responses, then cutting contact completely. He ghosted her. Rosalie was left heartbroken, confused, and $90,000 worse off, with a $15,000 debt. But Ben didn't just vanish. He exited strategically. having gotten what he wanted while avoiding detection. He didn't count on Rosalie's brother getting involved. A private investigator traced the money to Bidemi Bakari in Malaysia. The money was used to fund organised crime and terrorism. It moved through multiple accounts and ultimately back to a large crime syndicate in Nigeria. This is the layering stage of money laundering. It hides the money by moving it through multiple accounts. Rosalie's money was also used to buy luxury goods. Bidemi's social media flaunted designer clothes and lavish parties, all funded by Rosalie's money. This was the integration stage of money laundering, placing the money back into the financial system, making it seem legitimate. A sting by Malaysian police led to the arrest of Bidemi and 5 others. On his phone, they found Rosalie's details and 81 other Australian victims. This wasn't just a scam, it was part of a coordinated international criminal operation, and the post-activity phase was designed to bury the evidence and sustain that net.
Hello, I'm Maria and presenting Part B, Why Rosalie Was Vulnerable. Although Rosalie's family were there for her, her debilitating loneliness preceding her divorce left her open, vulnerable and susceptible to romance scams. Her desire, like any human, to feel connected, to be drawn out of the dark void of loneliness and make her feel like she was worth a person, is all it would take to emotionally sabotage her already fragile disposition and psyche. This bewitching man she met online, he could be that one to end the years of emotional neglect and torture. He said all the things she wanted, needed, and so longed to hear to make her feel complete and whole again. His charming, endearing charisma also gave the delusion that he genuinely reciprocated her feelings, that he was desirous of her undivided love, attention, and would, without hesitation, welcome her blind assistance in his financial afflictions. No one expects to be scammed. Most of us even have a subconscious invincibility that it's not going to happen to me. Rosalie's inability to see or want to see the red flags created the perfect environment in being scammed. Her natural empathetic persona would not have foreseen the impending doom that awaited her. She was emotionally open and hopeful, with a trust that would put many to shame, which also led to her demise. In a way, her lack of education about online scams or how fake profiles work would have aided to this disastrous scenario. What the offender did to exploit her. A romance scammer is the human equivalent of a Venus flytrap, alluring bait, compelling, silent motion, sudden capture, and a slow bleed out of trust, love, and security. The real twist is the scammer, like the plant, survives off what they consume. Ben utilized a Casanova-style approach with a compelling persona of a wealthy American businessman who was engaged in work overseas. His love bomb tactics overwhelmed his victim with heartfelt compliments and endearingly emotional messages, which dismantled Rosalie's capacity to rationalize the situation and inhibited her ability for logical thought processes. Instead, passion and desire overrode her reasoning, followed by her inability to trust those closest to her, throwing caution to the wind. Ben capitalized on his sickening desire for money, at the expense of his victims who were emotionally available, leaving a trail of heart-wrenching devastation in his wake. Nor was he satisfied with one, he was manipulating another 80 pawns in his psychotic game. Then the game changed. He had a problem, or so he claimed. Money troubles, emergencies, and was so in need of her help. He brainwashed Rosalie by keeping her emotionally dependent and told her to keep their relationship private, to ensure she would not divulge his game of intrigue to family or friends who may enlighten her to his actual intentions. As time progressed, his requests for financial assistance became bolder and demanding, and he exploited her emotional defenselessness and subjected her to feelings of guilt if she did not facilitate his greedy desires.
I'll move into the investigation of Mr. Smith and his business transactions. Mr. Smith operates a small online electronics business where payments will typically be made via card, PayPal, or bank transfer online. However, his January transaction history shows multiple large cash deposits of $9,000 and $9,500. These deposits were made at regular intervals, often carried out every 3 to 4 days across different bank branches. The deposits were followed by large cash withdrawals, which is inconsistent with an online sales model and raises flags under the AML-CTF obligations. The investigative mindset is built on key principles. First, we work from the facts and not assumptions, and every conclusion must be backed by evidence. Second, we need to stay open, objective, and curious, looking at all possible explanations and not just the obvious ones. Thirdly, we apply a structured process, observe, form hypotheses, and test them logically. This approach ensures our investigations are thorough, balanced, and grounded in fact, not bias or guesswork. To support a fair and transparent investigation, the intelligence gathering process begins with the collection of raw data, including Mr. Smith's transaction history and declared business profile. This data is then reviewed and organised into information that identifies key patterns such as frequent cash deposits just below the 10K threshold, the use of multiple branches, and regular withdrawals following deposits. The information is then analysed to generate intelligence that provides objective, evidence-based interpretations of Mr. Smith's financial behaviour in relation to his business model. This process ensures that all decisions are supported by facts, minimising bias and upholding the integrity of the investigation. Once this process is complete, we can form and test our hypotheses against available evidence.
Hypothesis 1. Structuring. The theory is that Mr. Smith is deliberately structuring cash deposits to remain below the $10,000 reporting threshold in order to avoid triggering AUSTRAC's mandatory reporting requirements. Indicators include Mr. Smith consistently depositing amounts between $9,000 and $9,500, deposits occurring every 3 to 4 days, often on the same 2 weekdays and across multiple bank branches. Several of these deposits are followed by large cash withdrawals. These indicators raise concerns of structuring behaviour under the AML-CTF framework. The investigation should focus on analysing transaction timing and purpose and may warrant a suspicious matter report. The risk level is assessed as moderate to high, given the potential regulatory breach and intent to evade financial oversight. Hypothesis 2. Tax evasion. The theory is that Mr. Smith may be underreporting his income to the Australian Tax Office by depositing undeclared cash into his business account. The indicators include frequent high-value cash deposits of $9,000 and $9,500 that is inconsistent with his online business model, a lack of supporting sales records or receipts to provide proof of declared income. Withdrawals are not linked to business expenses that may indicate cash in hand employee wages. The use of multiple branches across Melbourne creates a blurred audit trail. This behaviour is inconsistent with an online-only business model. The investigation will focus on comparing declared income to actual deposits and reviewing tax returns and income statements. The risk here is high, with potential consequences including fraud findings, financial penalties, and formal ATO and AUSTRAC action. Hypothesis 3. Money laundering. The theory here is that Mr. Smith's business is being used as a front company to facilitate the laundering of proceeds of crime, with the company showing evidence of legitimate online sales consistent with the business model. However, the multiple large cash deposits and subsequent withdrawals do not support this model. Indicators include cash deposits that are repeatedly structured below $10,000, followed by large withdrawals with no link to operational expenses. This pattern aligns with the known money laundering stages such as placement and layering. The investigation should prioritise enhanced due diligence, a suspicious matter report, and possible escalation to AUSTRAC. The risk is high due to potential involvement in serious financial crime.
Hypothesis 4. Personal use of business account. The theory is that Mr. Smith's withdrawal patterns, occurring soon after large deposits and lacking business justification, suggest personal use of business funds. Indicators include no supporting invoices or records linking the cash flow to legitimate expenses. This may indicate poor financial controls rather than criminal activity. The investigation should seek clarification and reinforce expectations around financial separation. While the risk is low, it still represents a compliance issue under accounting and tax standards. Hypothesis 5. Undisclosed cash incentive business model. The theory is that Mr. Smith may operate an informal, undeclared cash-based business in addition to his online store. Indicators include frequent large cash deposits, significant withdrawals, and a lack of electronic transactions suggest the presence of an alternative informal business activity. This contradicts the expected income patterns for an online-only retail model. The investigation should include updated KYC reviews, validation of declared business activity, and an examination of additional income sources. The risk is moderate to high, with possible breaches of tax and AML CTF obligations. Recommendations. To ensure a fair and thorough investigation into Mr. Smith's financial activity, we recommend 6 key actions. First, verify the source of funds by collecting sales and supplier records. Second, analyse transaction patterns for signs of structuring or unusual behaviour. Third, review Mr. Smith's KYC and customer profile to confirm expected activity. Fourth, check whether any SMRs or TTRs have already been lodged and compare against known topologies. Fifth, conduct a neutral interview to explore his explanation for the cash flow. And finally, determine next steps, whether that means reporting, enhanced monitoring, or business support. Conclusion. Ultimately, by addressing these hypotheses through targeted reviews and careful engagement, we not only clarify Mr. Smith's financial activity, we also strengthen our compliance posture and uphold trust in our regulatory responsibilities. Thank you for listening.